Another week has passed, and RMC is closing in on finishing out ArieForce One's layout. Let's see how close they are in this week's update. What's up guys, Dr. Coaster here on behalf of the Georgia Coaster Connection, and welcome back to another ArieForce One Construction update. Before we get started, I just want everyone to know that all photos and footage included in any of these construction updates are free to use with credit. I'd also like to thank not just my Georgia Coaster Connection partner Christopher as well, but also the names you're seeing on screen here as well, who have been generous enough to send in content free to use across recent updates and going forward. I'll be sure to link all of their pages down below. For those interested in sending in their own footage, you can find the details in the description. Over the last few weeks, we've seen RMC take ArieForce One from a bunch of white supports to a full-scale coaster. We haven't seen all of the track added quite yet, but in recent weeks we've seen the addition of not only the barrel roll, the outerbanked airtime hill, or the chili dip, but also the double up and big drop. On top of all this, last week RMC started taking the quad down towards the brake run, to conclude the remainder of construction before ArieForce One can get operational. This week, RMC picked up where they left off and continued adding track to the remainder of the layout, and we're seeing some signs of movement on the construction of the station building for the very first time. As with all these recent updates, I am recording this from the state of Florida, but Christopher was gracious enough to go out to the park this week and capture a lot of this footage you'll be seeing on screen. It's definitely killing me that I can't be there to see all this happening and wrapping up, but watching from a distance has certainly been impressive as well. I've been asked a few times now how many more of these construction updates will be happening, and I'm not quite sure, but there's not a whole lot left to cover, so enjoy these while they last. Now that we've got all the formalities out of the way, Christopher headed out to Fun Spot Atlanta this past Saturday and was thrilled with the progress that he found. I mentioned last week that we wouldn't be paying much attention to the parking lot anymore until something happened, and well, something happened. As you're seeing here on screen, Christopher checked out the parking lot before heading into the park and found landscaping. Yes, I know, just some trees and bushes, but it's something, so I'm including it here because that's exactly what I said I would do. Moving right along though, inside the park, Christopher headed to the back of the park to check in on ArieForce One as it passes over the arcade. Now, there was initially a private event going on in the Over the Lake Pavilion, so I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get these shots, but Christopher persisted and just happened to get lucky and the event let out, so here's those angles. From this angle in recent weeks, we saw the supports for the double up and big drop start to climb up into the sky, but this week you can tell, just as last week, all the track has been added, and wow does it look good. This profiling, though it looks tame, will certainly be fierce if it's taking it at the pace that we think it's going to. Just imagine dropping off of that as you fly through the barrel rolls at a quick rate of speed. While I'm talking about this, I'm also going to pop up some of the footage from last week that Chris got, because he sent in so much that was so incredible I wasn't able to include it all. So these shots you're seeing here are from behind the arcade that he was able to capture. For those having trouble telling Chris and Christopher apart, Christopher is Impractically Christopher and Chris is Thrillquirk. And both of them have been extremely helpful. So they've got more than just their names in common. Back to the barrel roll now. Looking at it from this angle, you can just tell how tight that roll is going to be. Now that I showed you the big drop in the last shots, imagine going through that immediately after dropping off of the big drop, and then getting hurled into the fakey airtime hill and the 3.75G ground hugger. This update's going to be kind of an overview of the entire layout now that we see it coming together, more than just a progress update as it has been in future videos. But I figured people would still want to see what this all looks like now that it's all starting to come together for the very first time. We'd seen many of these elements get installed on their own for a while now, but we're patiently waiting to see what they would look like as they join together. So that's what we're going to focus on in this week's update. Wrapping up what we can see behind the arcade, now let's take a peek at what all this will look like in front of it. As Christopher was approaching the ride from in front of the arcade, he captured this awesome shot here that really shows off the scale of ArieForce One. You can also now tell completely what the walkway is going to look like that'll take you to and from the kiddie area and Scream and Swing. And it's the Scream and Swing that's going to have some of the best interaction with ArieForce One in the entire park. I rode this a few months ago and I was amazed at the views I was able to get from behind the arcade. But now that all the track is installed here, it's going to be an absolutely incredible interaction if you're able to get a dueling ride. If ArieForce One's track is going down the big drop the same time as you're swinging on the Scream and Swing, it should be an absolutely incredible experience. Not only will you get the interaction of the train passing by, but you also get to watch it rip through the barrel roll at a very close-up angle, and watch it go through the ground hugger as it turns around to make its return trip back to the station. And to make its return back to the station, it is going to need the quad down. So let's look at what that's looking like this week. Looking at this footage from last week, you can see how much track was installed then versus how much is installed now, to give you some perspective of what all got done this week. And the one thing I want to focus in on is this last drop of the quad down, because it's slightly different. Nah, scratch that. It's pretty different from what we saw in the POV and ride renderings. Rather than just a small dip before the brakes, ArieForce One is going to drop all the way down to ground level on its last dip before popping up into the brakes. Last week I said the most comparable ending to this quad down combo would be the end of Steel Vengeance with its run of about 6 airtime hills. And if we count the chili dip here, as well as the pop into the brakes, if ArieForce One is traveling a significant rate of speed, I stand by that Steel Vengeance finale comparison, because I think it's going to be a pretty similar experience. I noticed the height and profiling of these supports a long time ago, but I can't recall if I included it in the video or not. So here's what it's looking like now that it's complete. This ride, just like many RMCs, is going to have airtime on top of airtime on top of airtime. You get the point by now. In some of these same angles that Christopher captured of the quad down, you can see that the brake run hasn't quite been installed yet. We saw the transfer track get installed months ago, so it wouldn't surprise me if we saw the brake run get concluded this week. There was also a little bit of track left at the exit of the outerbanked airtime hill before it heads up into the double up. But RMC was actively working on that while Christopher was there, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was wrapped up before the weekend was even completed. I fully expect to see that completed by next week's update. Now I know we really harped on the outerbanked airtime hill in last week's update, so here's just a few angles that Christopher captured. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Like we discussed in previous weeks, this isn't as tall as many people thought it might be, especially when compared to some of the larger outerbanked airtime hills that RMC and other manufacturers have made in recent years. However, this is incredibly unique because of its size, and also the profiling and speed at which it's going to take that size and profiling. Expect this to be perhaps the strongest moment of ejector on the entire ride. Alright, now let's get into the big news on the day. The station building is finally going vertical. Looking at these shots that Christopher captured, you can see the darker colored supports that weren't there last week. Many of us have wondered if there'd be some form of theming with ArieForce One in its station building, and it seems that we're about to figure that out. I've heard rumors that maybe the station could be themed to a hangar, as this would fit the theme of flight well. Now, we can't tell that for sure looking at this, but certainly not out of the question this could be shaped like a hangar. This is something to definitely keep an eye on in future weeks as electronics and other things start to move on site. No matter what this ends up looking like, it's just exciting to see infrastructure like this going vertical for the very first time, as all we've seen are track and support since this thing started. As fun as it has been making all these construction updates and interacting with all of you guys, they're definitely starting to wrap up construction, so there won't be too much to update you on in the future. Expect future updates to maybe be a little bit shorter as we see the little things over the course of the next few weeks and months. Maybe seeing some special additions in the spring before leading up to testing. This is all speculation on my part, but it seems to be the way that things are going to be heading at this point. Expect another update similar to this one next week, as we still have a little bit of construction left. But after that, we'll start to wind down this series and get hyped to ride the ride. With that said, I will be turning attention towards more coaster content, as some of that has been neglected in recent weeks and months. So if you've been sticking around for all these updates, I highly encourage you to check those out and continue interacting with me and others on this page. Thank you all for watching. That was the 32nd of many ArieForce One construction updates to come. If you don't want to miss out on the final construction updates of this series, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, as many more of these will be coming out leading up to the opening of the ride. If you haven't already, then also be sure to follow Georgia Coaster Connection over on Instagram, your home for all things ArieForce One. If you're feeling inclined, then you can follow me as well at Dr_Coaster. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.